So I'm going to be starting off talking about Delta Airlines, in particular second quarter, which is going to come somewhere after June 30th. They're going to put out their 10Q for the second quarter, and I anticipate there are going to be some special item liabilities that are going to pop up there. We already know one of them. I'll get to talking about it here on the website. We'll go over some numbers and discuss why it may be a little bit worse than people are anticipating, but of course a little bit worse when you're dealing with the coronavirus. May not have that much of an impact on the bottom line for Delta Airlines, company I like very much. So let's jump into it. Right now we're talking about Delta Airlines off-book losses as a companion to an article I'm writing at Seeking Alpha as it relates to Delta Airlines sort of forward projections of their recovery from the just devastation that's happened to the airline business out of the events surrounding COVID-19 coronavirus, shutdown of the economy. It's currently May 23rd, so we are starting just to reopen, kind of hoping that there isn't a big resurgence as we do reopen. But for now, looking at Delta Airlines, and I do like Delta Airlines. Out of the major long haul international U.S. carriers, it's kind of Delta, United, and American make up the triumvirate there. And out of the three of them, Delta has sort of been hands in a way from a balance sheet standpoint and from a profitability standpoint, the best, the winner airline. And in the U.S. airline, you kind of have Delta and Southwest running away from the rest of the field as it relates to financial performance, stability, as it relates to investors. Although right now there's not an awful lot of stability at all in airlines. It's probably not a good phrase to use with them right now. But what we are looking at, even though I like Delta Airlines, not everything's rosy. Not just coronavirus. Obviously, coronavirus is bad, but it's bad for everyone. Relatively, Delta Airlines have done some computations, and once you take into account their contractual obligations and the cash that they have available, if they avail themselves of all of the government funds, they got something like $14 billion that they can take in operating losses before they go broke. American and United are pretty much the same, just a little bit under $10 billion they have. So pretty nice cash advantage, financing advantage to Delta to make it to more profitable times. But everyone's kind of in the point now where they're starting to have to write some stuff off, and Delta hasn't done it for a few things yet. Again, it's May, so they have already put out their quarter one numbers. There's not a lot of special item liability stuff on there yet. We already know that one's going to come in the form of 777 aircraft that they are going to be removing from the fleet. They've already disclosed, I think, somewhere between $1.4 billion and $1.7 billion worth of write-offs on those aircraft that are going to be coming, combined with MD-90s, which they're getting rid of. We knew they were getting rid of that, but they're finally going to, in quarter two, put that on the balance sheet. Those are non-cash write-offs, so it doesn't affect their cash balance, but it's also not necessarily good from an investor standpoint to see them wiping off so much value off their balance sheet. I also think that they're probably going to be wiping off some of their investments, and that's really where we get into right now with this chart here in these tables. So Delta had invested fairly significantly over the past 5 years in other airlines, predominantly foreign airlines. The idea behind doing that was, seemed like a pretty good idea at the time, which is that they would tie themselves up with these foreign carriers, and in doing so, they would lock in code-share agreements with significant international carriers that could provide just a greatly increased scope of destinations from a worldwide network standpoint for Delta Airlines. So pretty good idea in concept and theory. The execution has been made much more complex and probably going to result in quite a bit of book losses as a result of it. So We have the charts here. Virgin Atlantic sort of start off up here in the charts. They own 49% of Virgin Atlantic, privately traded company, so we don't exactly know what the value of that is right now. However, Virgin Atlantic we know owes Delta 200 million. They're not sure if they're going to be able to pay them the 200 million that they owe them. Delta's already told Virgin Atlantic that they cannot anticipate Delta supporting them financially at all. So Virgin Atlantic is kind of on their own trying to find private equity to remain afloat. They're very close to bankruptcy. They're kind of struggling coming into coronavirus, and obviously they're struggling really bad now. I went ahead and just made an assumption, carry value that they showed in quarter one of 2020, Delta did in their balance sheet was 207 million. I went ahead and said, yeah, that's I think the current value is 25 million of that. So I made an assumption there. There's not a lot of data there, so you can kind of pick or choose from that. But I got about 182 million differential there. Grupo Aeromexico. Now they are actually traded publicly, so this is just based upon May 15th. So when I did this analysis, so the share prices May 15th, they were carrying 770 million to 51%. 51% on just about a week ago was 370 million. So pretty good shave there as well. Uh, LATM, LATAM, South America, Brazil based. They own 20%. They just did that with, a couple months prior to the collapse here. So they had a bunch of money they sunk into LATAM in quarter one, a little over a billion. And right now, based upon market prices, they've taken a pretty good, 70% hit on that. So about 770 million they've lost on that. Hagen KAL. Now this one's kind of interesting because once again, there is market value you can get for it, which is pretty close to their carry value right now. It's more or less the same. But they've actually appreciated significantly, like 100% in the last year. And if that seems surprising for a South Korea Asian airline to appreciate 100% in the midst of coronavirus, if you can't figure that out, well, it doesn't have anything to do with fundamental reasons. They've increased because there's a proxy fight going on. There's a family feud, and so there's everyone's rallying, trying to buy as many shares as they can in the different camps in this proxy fight. So they've really, really driven the price up. My anticipation is, based upon what they were valued at before the proxy fight, and then take a little bit of a discount there because of what happened to coronavirus. That the current value is about 100 million on that investment, which is $438 million loss. And Air France, once again, these are all market-based prices. They haven't lost as much in Air France. The carry value is 211 million. It's pretty close to what the value was when I checked it on May 15th. So all told, when you add all this up, it's about $1.7 billion that they're showing on books that really doesn't exist, most likely in market terms. So LATAM, they've already, in quarter one, they sort of implied, if you read between the lines, that they're going to do something with this carry value in quarter two. They're going to have to take some sort of an impairment on it because it's just too much of a decrease. LATAM, we really don't know. Brazil has not really demonstrated a willingness to float or support their airlines. So LATAM's kind of on their own right now. So who knows what the end story is going to be. It's going to be bankruptcy or if it's going to be significant dilution. Delta obviously can't really support them on their own. This is actually part of these funds were to support LATAM as it was. They picked up some wide body aircraft from them and then they were going to pay a couple hundred, $300 million to help them unwind from a codeshare agreement they had with American Airlines. So kind of really bad timing right here. We'll see what they come up with when they get to quarter two, but between unwinding the Boeing 777s and the impairment, the fleet impairment they're going to take on that and the MD-90s, and between some impairments they're going to have to take here, you're probably looking at a couple $1 billion on paper. Again, that's not cash. So from a standpoint of concerns about solvency and all of that, that's not going to impact that because their cash position is not going to be adversely impacted by it. However, it does put a bit of a dent in their ability to outperform all of their peers. $2 billion is a pretty good amount to be given back. Not enough. I mean, it's just a testament to how far ahead Delta was of everyone else that it's not enough to knock them off the top tier, the top position of the major long haul carriers, but it bruises them a little bit. So once again, if you want quick updates as I post this stuff, travelingfinancialadvisor.com. You can follow me there, and you can also follow me on Twitter. And on Twitter, my handle is TDUNNS3, number 3, TDUNS3. You can follow me on Twitter, and anytime I post, immediately I post to Twitter. So once again, like I said, I like Delta a lot. I like them a lot as a business. I like their execution. I like their profitability. Obviously, they're going through some tough times with COVID-19 like everyone else. You sort of have to measure these companies in comparison to each other. So they're all being devastated. Delta's a little bit less devastated than everyone else. They are falling back a little bit back into the pack here. Some of these expansionary projects that they were going in on in an environment where you're shrinking a little bit are probably going to be the ones that shrink. So we'll see exactly what they end up doing, but I still like them. If you're going to invest in the airlines, I would suggest at this point, predominantly, unless you're just really out there to make casino bets, stick with the most financially stable companies right now. That's Delta and Southwest.